Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelli Fox. Each week, Kelli will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes, events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you, and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelli Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelli each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox. On this show, I'm going to talk to you about astrology and what it is and what it's all about and how it can affect your life and all that good stuff. It's a very, very complex topic. Most people know astrology as a daily horoscope, and that's a great place to start. Millions and millions of people all over the world check their daily horoscope every day, their weekly horoscope every week, their monthly horoscope, their yearly. Astrology is a very, very complex thing. It takes years of study to learn, and it's not just some made-up random number generator where you can luck out getting a great reading for the day with your daily horoscope and a sun sign. Now, sun signs are very popular and they're easy to work out because it's just basically the date of when you were born, not even the year, not even the year. So if you were born today, you would be a Scorpio. Doesn't matter what year, you would be a Scorpio. And then when you start digging down a little bit deeper into the date of birth, so say, for example, you were born today, so that's today's date, and then you have to take the year into consideration. And so then it becomes a little bit more unique. So it's based off the date of birth of somebody, an individual, and then the time of birth plays into it. So the time of birth within 4 minutes, and the time of birth is dependent on the moment we take our first breath. That's when the time should be set. And then the location of birth is very important as well. So you have 3 crucial components to astrology, to an individual's astrology, and that's the date, time, and place of birth. So anyone can gain a greater personal understanding with astrology since it affects our lives just as the moon influences the tides. So we know for a fact that the moon, it's a satellite to our Earth, and it controls the tides. It has an effect on our tides, on the water, on this planet. So astrology can provide tools that can help us make the best and most informed decisions. Isn't that interesting? So why are the planets up there? What do they do out there in the galaxy? Do they have no effect on us, or do they have a lot of effect? That's the That's the age-old question. So the planets, astrologers believe that the planets have a gravity. So Earth has a gravity and a gravitational pull. The moon has its gravitational influence to affect our tides on this planet. So the other planets are like satellites to our Earth as well. So they're also satellites affecting our Earth. We're all part of the solar system. So we have within our solar system our Earth, and the center of the solar system is the sun, and all the planets in our solar system move around the sun, and they all have different effects on us, each individual on Earth. It's just an amazing connection that we live in. It's an environment that extends way beyond our immediate environment and our small piece of the universe. Everything is interconnected. And the way that astrologers describe that is they will say, as above, so below, which means how the planets affect us through their gravitational pull is as above, so below. So astrology can provide us tools that can help us make the best, most informed decisions. Isn't that amazing? It's like a map for our soul that provides us with insights into the future, also the past and the present. So what happens with the planets and their movement around the sun at varying speeds and influences affects us on a day-to-day basis, all in a different way. Because as I said in the beginning, our chart means our astrological chart. It's the snapshot of the moment we were born. And so that is called our natal chart. And that is a snapshot of the planets at the time we were born. So that's why the time of birth is really important. Over the years, I've had many people guess a time because, of course, in the moments of birth, looking at the clock is not something a mother typically will be doing. So so it's important to get an accurate time of birth to have an accurate astrological chart. And so the chart is really called a horoscope, but in our modern world, the daily horoscope has taken over that terminology. So astrologers now call the round chart wheel a chart. And I'll talk a bit more about that later in the show and what it means. So back to the overview of what astrology is. It provides us with insight, and it also gives us guidance. And it also reveals the tendencies, the quirks, and the truth about human nature, our relationships, our career choices, and generally the world at large. Astrology may be used as a guide for daily living as well as for forecasting and predictions. And astrology is based off the movement of the planets around the sun. That's basically it in a nutshell, although it is a complex system that dates back to the 3rd millennium B.C., and it's based on celestial observations and correlating events. That's a fancy way of saying it's based from the movement of the planets around the sun. Once upon a time, astrology and astronomy were the same thing. The differences are astronomy is regarded as a science, and it studies also the planets, but anything that's out of space. But it doesn't give interpretations to the planets. So astrology is based from the movement of the planets around the sun, just as astronomy, but astrology gives interpretations to the movements. And those interpretations are based from ancient Greek and Roman mythology. So astrology has influenced belief systems and entire cultures. India, for example, astrology is revered and very, very highly regarded. Most people will not get married without the consent of an astrologer or the blessing of an astrologer, where you need to have an astrologer check your compatibility. And the Indian astrology is different to the astrology that we do here, and I say here meaning the Western world. So the astrology that I use in this country and in the Western culture is Western astrology or tropical astrology, whereas you have a different type of astrology in India, and that's called Vedic astrology. And Vedic astrology is based from the position of the fixed stars and the constellations, whereas tropical astrology or Western astrology is seasonal. It's based from the seasons. So there is a difference with the systems. There is some crossover. Of course, the meaning of the planets is always going to be the same. So you'll find that because Indian astrology is based off fixed positions, that it's about 23 degrees behind Western astrology. So that's why sometimes you might hear Vedic or Indian astrologers saying that you may be a Cancer, where in Western astrology you're a Leo, and that's the reason. Yes, it's confusing, and it's very complicated, but it works. Both systems work, and they have different things that they look at, but it definitely does work. So we're going to take a short break, and I'm going to continue with my explanation of astrology. So stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox. And on this show, I'm talking to you about astrology. I wanted to give you an overview of what astrology is. And the more I thought about it, the more complex it sort of became, because there are so many components to astrology. It is so much more than a daily horoscope. And over the years, I've said a daily horoscope is, it's not even the tip of the iceberg. It's the whatever is on the very tip of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. But it is a great place to start, knowing about your sign and then the planets and how they affect you. And when I talk about the planets are Mercury, Venus, of course, Earth, but we don't consider Earth as, well, it is a calculation because it's the location on this Earth where you were born. So remember in the beginning I said date, time, place are the crucial three pieces of information that you need to dive further into astrology beyond a daily horoscope. So the planets, astrologers classify the sun and the moon as planets, although of course technically they're not. The sun is a star, the moon is a satellite to the Earth. Then you have Mercury, Venus, and there's Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And for hundreds and thousands of years, the human race had not realized that there were three outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. They weren't discovered until recently, and recently meaning within the last couple of hundred years. So astrologers primarily use the sun through Saturn, and my understanding of Indian or Vedic astrology, they do the same thing. And so that's why I know in a recent show I talked about some of the signs having two planetary rulers, and that's the reason why. Once the outer three planets got discovered, they got assigned to a sign to rule, and so that sign, for example, Scorpio, previously was ruled by Mars, and once Pluto was discovered in 1930, then it was assigned to Scorpio, and then Mars became the co-ruler. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's starting to get complex already, and I'm only talking about planets. So I'll try and stay in a linear type of format, just to make it easier to follow, but this is just the nature of astrology, the complex nature of astrology. It takes years and years of study. You can't just read one book and have it under your belt. Even though I'm a professional astrologer, I formally studied astrology many years ago, and I am accredited with different organizations and have taken exams to become a professional and to become recognized as a professional astrologer. And I have to say, while I'm on that topic, that two of my exams were 8 hours each, and the rest were 4 hours. So it's very intense when you want to become accredited as a professional. And it's very mathematical because of the tracking of the planets in their orbit around the sun. They move in a predictable pattern at a predictable speed. So we know anywhere into the future, any time in the future, past, present, future, where any planet will be. And that's how astrologers can make predictions based off predictable movement of the planets and other such things. So there's 12 signs of the zodiac, and there is a particular order as there are with the planets, and you always start from the innermost planet out. So with the signs, the first sign of the zodiac is always Aries. It drives me nuts sometimes when I see signs listed starting either in alphabetical order with Aquarius or at the beginning of the year, which is Capricorn. So that is, I mean, it's just a small little thing, a small little detail, but it's really important. It'd be like having the numbers listed out of order. So it's very important. Accuracy, of course, is always crucial with astrology. And so it's always important to know that the first sign of the zodiac is Aries. And the order is Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And Pisces is always the 12th sign. So each sign has its own specific energy, and within our astrological chart, based off the date, time, and place we were born, within 4 minutes of our first breath, we all have each of the signs within us and affecting us within our chart. We just have those signs and the signs' energy in varying degrees. So, for example, someone might be born a Scorpio. I'm using Scorpio as the example because the sun is in Scorpio, and Mercury might be also in Scorpio, but because Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, it's never more than 28 degrees away from the sun. So that means that if someone has the sun in Scorpio at the time they were born, Mercury's only ever going to be in Libra, Scorpio, or Sagittarius. So it's only ever going to be in the sign before or after, or the same sign as the sun. So there's certain little rules around there's certain rules around astrology that astrologers can tell straight away what's accurate and what isn't. So you can tell straight away if somebody's born with their sun in Scorpio, but they have their Mercury, which represents the way we communicate, say in Libra, then the true nature of that person is not going to be apparent by what they say at first. But again, the more you know someone, the more you know someone, if that makes sense. So, and it's the ways in also which the planets interact with each other that reveal important influences within individuals as well. So, for example, somebody's born with the sun in Scorpio, but the moon, which is the fastest moving, I say planet in quotes, because we know technically it's not, but the moon being the fastest moving planet, which changes sign every 2.5 days, say compared to Pluto, the outermost planet, and yes, it's still a planet according to astrologers, changes sign every 12 to 28 years. So there's a huge difference between the movement of the moon, how fast it's moving, compared to how slow Pluto moves. So, for example, if someone has their sun in Scorpio, and at the time they were born, the moon might have been in Leo, astrologers know straight away that the moon and the sun were about 90 degrees apart, and that has meaning as well, and that's called an aspect. And so we know that at that time that person has sun-moon square, so that has a meaning, and then so on and so forth, because the moon would be in one sign, the sun in another, the angle that they come together at, the geometric angle is another indicator or another influence. And then you start involving the other planets in that individual's chart at the time they were born. And then you have things called transits, which is a way to forecast or predict what's going to happen to that person within their life. And then that's just one individual. And then you have compatibility, how an individual gets along with another individual or a group. And you have this complex system within an individual coming together with, or colliding, let's say, with another individual with all their stuff going on. And then you can see how sometimes you can get along better with one person and not another, and so on. It's basically how compatible the planets are to each other within yourself and then with others. Does that make sense? As I said, astrology is a very, very complex system. Sometimes it's very hard to explain, particularly in such a short amount of time. And I know I'm cramming a lot in here, but I might do a series. We'll see what sort of feedback I get with this information. So we have the planets involved, from the Sun out through Pluto. We have the 12 signs that I've talked about. Then with the chart wheel, which I keep referring to, it's a round circle, and it's divided into 12 segments. And each of those segments are called houses. It's a weird terminology. I sometimes refer to make things easier and less confusing. With the work that I do, you might find that sometimes I refer to the houses as sectors or segments. Other astrologers I've seen pieces of pie, which I think is sort of cute because it's a round circle, and okay, it could be a bit like a pie. So 12 pieces of pie are related to the houses. And the houses and the chart wheel are all very birth time specific. So the 12 houses correlate with the 12 signs and each of the planets. So you can group each very nicely. So, for example, you have the first house, and the first house relates to Aries and Mars. And the second house, second sign, Taurus, and the ruler of Taurus is Venus. Now, the first house is its cusp. Each beginning of each house is called a cusp, and each cusp has meaning as well. But the first house, its cusp is called the ascendant or the rising sign, and that starts. The chart wheel starts at the 9. If you think of a clock, the first house starts at the 9 o'clock point. I know it's weird, isn't it, right? But it represents the eastern horizon. And then you're probably thinking, well, east, when you look at it visually, east is on the right if you're looking at a map. But with astrology, it's flipped around. So I did warn you, it's very complex. So it's flipped around. So the beginning of a chart wheel, that round circle with the 12 pieces of pie or the 12 houses, as it's technically referred to, begins at the 9 o'clock point if you're looking at a clock. So on that note, we're going to take a short break, and after the break, I will continue. So stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatesPR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox. And on this show, I'm talking to you about astrology. Yes, it's a very, very complex system. It's an ancient complex system. That's how I like to typically refer to it, helping us in a modern-day world. So before the break, I was talking about lots of good stuff, and I was talking about the houses. And so far, I've covered the planets, the signs, and the houses. They're the three main ingredients to astrology, to someone's birth chart. And a birth chart is dependent on a date, time, and place of birth. So if you know somebody who's having a baby, make sure that they get that birth time to the minute. It's really, really important for an astrologer to know a time of birth. And I guess no surprises that not everybody knows their time of birth, which can be incredibly frustrating. And I can't begin to tell you the amount of people that I have been with just socially, regularly, readings. I'm pretty upfront before a reading. I need these three key elements. But how many people in the middle of even business meetings, they say, hold on a minute. They pick up the phone and they call their mother. There have been dozens and dozens and dozens of times this has happened. And I'm always smiling on the inside about this because it's sort of cute. They call their mum and they say, Mum, I really need to know what time I was born. And I can hear the mum laughing at the other end typically because, as I said earlier, looking at a clock during that crucial time period of someone's life is really secondary. So we have covered the signs, the planets, the houses, and the good thing is that astrology has systems. So there are systems to help us understand and remember this complex topic. Of course, a lot of times there's always an exception to the rule, but that aside, it's all about systems and groupings. So with the signs, and I know I covered this in another show, and OMTimes do keep previous shows, and I did cover this where within the signs there's groupings, and the signs are grouped into the four natural elements, and that's fire, earth, air, and water. And they go in order. So the fire signs are Aries, Leo, Sag. Oh, so wait, let me take a step back. So the elements go in a nice little pattern or a nice little order. So as I said before, the sign order is important. The order is very important in astrology. It's very important to list things out in the correct order because it's such a complex topic. When things are written or listed in order, it's easier to follow and understand and remember. So the first four signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, and then you have fire, earth, air, water. So the next four signs are Leo, Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio, and again you have fire, earth, air, and water, and so on. So you have these groupings of fire, earth, air, water. And so I had mentioned, I remember it was the show on compatibility, and the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, they are naturally compatible. So that's a good rule of thumb to remember with compatibility. Signs of the same element go together. So the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And the key words for the fire signs are warm-hearted, independent thinkers. And next you have the earth signs, and it's Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And they're known as being practical and down to earth. and they go well together with compatibility. And I'm not just talking sun sign compatibility, but of course sun signs are an excellent place to start with any level or any topic around astrology. Sun signs are a great place to start. But anybody that has any planets in those signs, compatibility in astrology is very complex, because if you tuned in at the beginning of the show, I talked a lot about the planets, the signs, the houses, and then within an individual's chart, how each of those planets interact with the other planets in an individual's chart. And then when you come together with somebody else and you're looking at compatibility, which is also known as synastry in astrology, you get a lot of complexity at that point. But I have to say that compatibility is one of my very favorite things to do in a reading. I really, really enjoy compatibility. I'm off on a bit of a tangent now. I said I wouldn't do it, but I can't help it. I really, really enjoy compatibility. And actually there was a period of time when I was working for a matchmaker, an offline matchmaker, and I really, really enjoyed that a lot. As I said, I like doing compatibility in my readings, but I really enjoyed working with this matchmaker. And what he would do would be give me the date, time, and place of the individuals. Typically, it was say one male with 3 females, and he'd say what type of compatibility will this bachelor have with these 3 women. So I would give him an overview, and it's very complex, and there's no such thing as a perfect relationship, but we are definitely more compatible with some people and not others. And of course, I'm stating the obvious. So think about in your life the people you really like and the people you don't like as much. Astrology can explain that. For example, it's just up to the earth signs, and if you have a Taurus the bull, and they get along really well with a Virgo, that's great, that's sun sign compatibility. But say, for example, if you have a Taurus and an Aries, and although let me make it a bit more complicated. Let's say, for example, you have a Taurus and an Aquarian. Typically, those 2 signs are not meant to get on, but the Aquarian might have a Taurus moon, so there's an instant connection. So on the surface, on the sun sign surface of compatibility or anything else that you're looking at, it might not be apparent, but when you dig beneath the surface and then you see why somebody's compatible or somebody isn't. So back to the elements and the signs. The air signs, and that's Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, are known for their cerebral and expressive minds. And then finally, the 4th group, the 4th elemental group, are the water signs, and that's Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And they are intuitive and nurturing. And I'm saying intuitive underlined, extremely intuitive, or anybody who has planets in water signs are known for their intuition, their instinctual abilities. So back to just a bit more of a description of the elements and the signs. The Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius are the fire signs, and also known to burn the candle at both ends. They are constantly on the go and enjoy fast-paced life. Fire signs, as I said, are warm-hearted, and they can be a bit hot-headed. Sometimes jump into something without a second thought. They like to live on the edge, can be strong-willed, especially Aries and Leo, and impulsive. Fancy that. But they're also known to be inspirational and to motivate and to lead others. Now, the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, have a reputation as being solid and carefully building strong foundations for themselves and their families. They're dependable, emotionally balanced, strong shoulder that supports those closest to them. Now, if you think to anybody that you know that is an earth sign, Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, and you might think, oh, that does not fit that person, that's because think about all the other planets below the surface that you might not be aware of. Most people can work out someone's sun sign, but to know all the other planets, you need date, time, and place. And then you can start seeing behind the curtain of what's going on for somebody. Then the air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, they can be quite light-hearted. They're the thinkers of the zodiac, and they're very much into communication and the intellect. They have a reputation as being witty, expressive, and as changeable as the air. And finally, the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, and their emotional depths are like deep, still water, extremely intuitive. Many are psychic, very sensitive to others, and also tuned into their surrounding environment. They're very fluid by nature and will often go with the flow. But they do feel every wave of the undercurrent and are hypersensitive. And but they are also very romantic too. That's another thing with the water signs, sentimental and romantic. So besides the four elements, we also have the signs in another grouping, and the other grouping is called qualities. So there are three different types of qualities, and that's cardinal, fixed, and mutable that influence the sign. So these qualities provide clues about a person's general attitude. We're going to take a short break, and then after the break, I'm going to explain more about the qualities. So stay tuned.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millicers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance will come in with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox, and I'm talking to you about astrology. How about that? So just before the break, I was talking about the classification of the 12 signs, and we've got two main groupings, and the first grouping is the elements, and that's fire, earth, air, and water, and the second grouping is called the qualities, or the modes or modalities. And so the modalities are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And this is very insightful because it seems that with the elements, it's sort of pretty obvious, fire, earth, air, water. And when you know the signs groupings, so the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, then you'll know that there's great compatibility. So It's an easy, quick guide to understanding compatibility. It's the first step for compatibility is to look at planets, the sun and the other planets, and see the groupings according to the elements. Now, the second classification is the modes or qualities. And so modes and qualities are very interesting because it's the grouping of the signs, but it doesn't necessarily mean compatibility. It means more similarity. So these three classifications, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, offer insight into our general attitude and perspectives, as well as the way we engage with the world. So it's like this classification reveals how we tackle projects and how we handle ourselves overall. So the cardinal signs represent beginnings, and the cardinal signs correlate to a new season, and I'll cover that in a minute. And the fixed signs represent mid-season energy, and the mutable signs represent the culmination or the end of a season before we're moving into a new season, and then the cycle starts again. So the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And so these four signs are known to be enterprising, and then they have a dynamic energy that drives them. And I like to call these four signs the trendsetters of the zodiac. They're always starting new things. And again, depending on the other planets in an individual's chart, if somebody has a lot of cardinal planets, they're definitely somebody who's going to be more into starting things and finishing things or seeing things through to the end. They're going to be good leaders because they're visionaries. They can see what's ahead. They know how to put their ideas into action and lead the charge on projects. They inspire and motivate others with their energy and drive. Cardinal signs can be fearless, ambitious leaders, but they know how to take charge in any sort of situation. But it's really about the follow-through that might be lacking. That's why team efforts are very important, because we all bring our own skills and abilities to the table. So the cardinal signs are very outgoing and active, typically, and then they have take-charge personalities. But they do it in different ways. So you have Aries, which is a fire sign. So you've got Aries being cardinal fire sign. They're going to take. Whereas Cancer is a cardinal sign, but they're a water sign, so they're going to do it in a way that's not as obvious or overt. Cancer's going to appeal more to the emotions and do it in a more nurturing way. Then you've got Libra, it's a cardinal sign, but it's an air sign, so Libra is a very diplomatic sign, so it's going to lead in a way that is harmonious or with diplomacy, rather than Aries just diving straight in and taking charge. And then you have Capricorn, an earth sign. It's going to think through the situation in a practical way, with a long-term view, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is father time and is all about long-term or long haul. So Capricorn will lead by thinking through strategically. So then you have the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, and they're the ones that just keep going. So the fixed signs are determined, committed, and persistent, and they will see something through to the end because they have some focus, concentration, and work steadily towards their goals. But on the flip side, they can be, how do I say this? dig their heels in. So everything has a shadow side, and astrology really does highlight the yin-yang shadow side of things. And it doesn't mean when there's a shadow side that it's necessarily bad. It just means something that needs to be illuminated and maybe worked on, or at least made aware of. So the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. If you know anybody born under one of those four signs, does this fit how they are? Determined, persistent, stubborn, as can be stubborn, depending on what the other planets are in the individual's chart, what other signs. But they do create stability, and as I said, they can see things through to the end. Finally, we have the mutable signs, and the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. The mutable signs are flexible and adaptable, and they bring others together and can often see things from multiple perspectives. They're great to have on the team because they can help us, they can help the fixed signs see another point of view, and they can help the cardinal signs help them get things done as well. So that's another classification of the signs through modalities and qualities. So then we have covered the signs, which I said was Aries through Pisces, and then the division of the signs. And the signs were based from the constellation. So when you look up in the sky and you're looking at the constellation, it doesn't necessarily line up perfectly, because Western astrology, what we do in the Western world is through the seasonal. So our astrology starts with Aries and the first day of Aries, and in the Northern Hemisphere we have spring, and then in the Southern Hemisphere it is autumn. So next we have the houses, which I've covered, and then the moon phases. So the moon phases, as I said in the beginning of the show, the moon controls the tides on Earth. And the tides on Earth, we have high tide, low tide, and that's all very predictable. And the moon is a satellite to Earth. And it's very interesting that the moon, we know technically, is not a planet, but astrologers classify the sun and moon as planets, just to make things more simple. And so what the moon is, it rules the unconscious realms of our minds. It rules our day-to-day stuff. It's our instinctual reactions that can be affected by the moon's phases over the course of a month. Or to be more specific, it's around 28, 29 Earth days as the moon changes shape. Now, it doesn't really, it's just our position from Earth and the reflection of the light of the sun helps give the moon phases. And each phase of the moon represents something different. So we start with, there's really 8 phases of the moon, but there's 4 main phases. So the beginning of a moon cycle, and we have just had a new moon. So we've just had a new moon, and new moons represent new beginnings. So anytime there's a new moon, which happens once a month or every 28, 29 days, it's a wonderful, opportune time for new starts and beginnings. So if you're looking to start something new, it's a perfect time around the new moon. And you can also time it for when you've got the new moon and you want to start something in particular, look for the sign that the new moon is in, and the sign will also help. So the new moon is new beginnings. After the new moon, there's a crescent moon. Oh, and with the new moon, you won't see anything up in the sky. It will just be just a dark sky. So then also after that, you'll have the crescent moon, and that's when you'll see a slither of the moon on the right-hand side. And the crescent moon is a progression of the new moon just a few days after. And it's when we've decided on a new course and we're putting our plans into action. After the crescent moon, you have the first quarter moon. And the first quarter moon, sometimes they say, is a crisis when something comes to a head and we have to work around some type of obstacle or look at an evaluation. Then there's the gibbous moon. And then the gibbous moon is like a minor phase of the moon, but it's just before the full moon. And, of course, full moon, everybody's howling at the moon, and so on. And then you've got the third quarter moon after that when it's coming to a completion. And then the final phase is balsamic, and it's about ending. And speaking of ending, we're at the end of the show. Thank you for joining me. Stay tuned for next week's show, and I hope that covers some information about astrology for you. I'm your host and astrologist, Kelli Fox. Tune in next time